welcome to our ninth episode of STOKR Insights. So we are back. We had a little bit of a pause over the last few months, but now with everything is happening this year, I think we are super excited to be back. So let's get into it, Arnab. What happened?
It's crazy year, right? We are in 15th of February, Tobias, and we had crazy market movement with Bitcoin primarily from 11th of January as we saw all this Bitcoin ETF hypes, and somehow SEC approved all of the ETFs at the same time. There were kind of discussion in the market, either it will happen in January or somewhere in March when the BlackRock's timeline comes in. But it seems the Gary Gensler was kind enough to do it in January, and it went through. And we saw very interesting developments in the Bitcoin price, in the discussion around Bitcoin, ESG discussion around Bitcoin, everything. So I think it's a fantastic start of the year.
Yeah, and I think like right now, I think the inflows are extremely interesting also in the ETFs, right? I think if you want, you can share like a chart where we can see this. I think BitMEX has done like a very good collection of data. So let's get into this here.
Yes, I'm sharing. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Perfect. Very interesting. It's very interesting. You see, like all these companies got the ETF approval at the same time. And one of the OG of this is Grayscale, GBDC, right? Mm-hmm. And you saw like a GBDC lost a lot of the volume over the last couple of days. I think it's over now a 1 month period. And kind of interesting things, not the Bitcoin ETFs volume went out, that people diluted and exited the ETF space. But technically what happened is we saw a lot of movement from GBDC to other ETFs. And on the other side, we saw a net inflow of over 4 billion. That's a little over 1 month. So that's quite also promising. And some of the biggest winners of this is BlackRock ETF, IBIT, Fidelity, FBTC, and interesting Bitwise, BITB. They all of these three, along with ARK and everything, they gained a tremendous amount of volume. And I think also we saw an interesting movement in Bitcoin price last couple of days. We touched 50,000 a few days back, and hopefully we can actually even go further because we see the number of Bitcoins that is in demand is not being mined constantly. So there is, on the mining side, supply is less, and on the demand side for the ETFs is increasing. So it will be interesting to see how the price develops over the time.
Yeah, and there will be also like the halving coming up, right? I think right now there are like 9,442 blocks still to be mined. I don't know whether you have like the data here.
Yes, I'm sharing over here. Yeah, this is very interesting. In 63 days, we will see. And this is very, yes, you mentioned a very nice point here, is on one side, we have, the demand side of all the ETFs, the Bitcoin coming in. And one of the main custodian is Coinbase. So Coinbase is definitely going out and looking for the Bitcoins by the prime brokers and the networks that they have. But on the other side, we will see also supply side squeezing once the halving happens. And what does it mean in halving? The number of block reward, that is in Bitcoin network, you get a block subsidy. That is, a network provides a Bitcoin to subsidize the mining operations. That was how Satoshi envisioned the process. And right now, the number of Bitcoins that is being issued as a part of the subsidy is 6.25 Bitcoin per block. This will go down and it will halve from in 63 days. That means people will not get that 6.25, but somewhere around 3 BTC, which further pushes the supply side of the Bitcoin. And that may be very interesting to observe how the price really develops. Because here you can see the total number of Bitcoin that is, coming part of this block reward is this. That includes very interesting number. But this is very interesting to observe how it develops over the time.
Yeah, in 63 days, I think when I calculate now, it's like around the 21st of April. Then we have to do definitely also a show, I think, because I think that will be like a very interesting day for us. Another hot topic right now is definitely also MicroStrategy. There are also like some new data came out. I think they increased like the number of their Bitcoin holdings. Can you highlight a little bit about this kind of development? Because I think it's very interesting. I think they hold like around 190,000
Yeah, so MicroStrategy is a very interesting company. I think I was observing some of the performance from before COVID and what happened after COVID. Before COVID, the total market cap of the company was somewhere roughly around 2 billion, which drastically changed because of a very interesting strategy that Michael Saylor played out, was the total number of Bitcoin that the company was buying. And the total number of Bitcoin they bought used their own treasury, plus also they took a loan of around $2 billion at a very interesting price. And then subsequently, they bought a lot of Bitcoin, which brought the business in a very nice stage. So, right, let me just bring some numbers here. So I think according to the last Q4 report of 2023, the quarter 4 report of 2023, they are currently holding around 190,000 Bitcoin. If you come across, it will be around 0.8% of Bitcoin in circulation. If it's 19 million, we consider as Bitcoin in circulation. But given the fact that 4 million people consider to be lost, so they definitely will have more than 1% Bitcoin in circulation. And their acquisition cost on average for per Bitcoin is around 31,224 USD. So they're definitely in a very positive, considering the fact Bitcoin price is right now around 50K USD. So MicroStrategy is a very interesting company to observe over the time, because one interesting thing is also a lot of people are discussing in the market, the MicroStrategy discussion should be how much Bitcoin per MicroStrategy stocks. So that's a very interesting metrics, and that metrics actually gives people understanding is what is the the premium that MicroStrategy stocks can have. Interestingly, Tobias, when we were discussing, I think in January about MicroStrategy, the price per share was around $500. Now it's around $700. So it's around 12 billion market cap, and that's pre-COVID 2 billion to post-COVID in 2024 to around 12 billion. That's a fantastic, as a story of a company that is more than 20 years in public market. So it's a very interesting company to observe, and looking forward to it.
I think also like they changed a little bit like the business proposal as far as I have seen. They want to be also like more involved in the Bitcoin software development. I don't know how they describes this exactly on the webpage, but I think it's so they because like in the end it's like they have like an operational company, right? And I think they don't have like extreme high revenues, but now they're holding around in US dollar terms 9 billion worth of Bitcoin, and I think like their quarterly earnings is around 100 million US dollars. And as you say, like they have increased. So from the market cap like up to 12 billion. So when you consider this is like 9 billion of the market cap is actually Bitcoin, right? So I think it's getting like a pure Bitcoin company in the end, right?
I think it's very interesting because if you see the company, like MicroStrategy as a company, it's one of the oldest public listed company that is in the B2B software space. And that's, as you mentioned, the revenue from the software business does not justify the valuation. The valuation is being justified by the Bitcoin that the company has acquired and created a very robust treasury management. I think this is very interesting. And 2024 also is a very interesting year to observe for MicroStrategy, because I think in US right now for public companies, the accounting, how these companies were doing, they're not a fair market value accounting. And Michael Saylor has spoken a number of times on that point, is how the Bitcoins in the treasury are being accounted does not reflect the real value of the Bitcoin. But from 2024, there is, I think, some change in accounting principles that the public companies in US can do, and that will allow them to really value the real value of the Bitcoin as a fair market value of Bitcoin. And that may actually also bring different interest in the market into how the stocks are being traded at a premium or at a discount, so whatever it is, right? Another question that Tobias you asked just now is, what is the business model technically? The business model primarily is a software as a service business, but you see the last couple of years, they're also hosting Lightning conference, and Michael Saylor is very much strong supporter of Lightning for enterprise and all these solutions. So I think they will definitely come into creating different, corporate solutions, and they have a very strong arm in the B2B segment. So definitely, I think they will come into Lightning for corporate solutions, and maybe some other elements of the Bitcoin. Maybe they will also come into some Bitcoin layer 2. Maybe they partner with some other layer 2. So that will be very interesting to observe how MicroStrategy uses their strong position and a very strong balance sheet. And also, I think they're one of the biggest competitor of ETF, because a lot of people were telling that, hey, once the Bitcoin spot ETF comes in 11th of January, a lot of this interest will go out from MicroStrategy, which is a proxy of Bitcoin ETF for some time, because a lot of institutions can buy that MicroStrategy stocks instead of buying Bitcoin ETF. So the idea was that a lot of volume will move out from the MicroStrategy and go to the Bitcoin ETFs. We did not see that, actually. We saw on the other side, MicroStrategy was very resilient. And on the other hand, you also have the ETFs that got some money from outside capital. So that means they are here to stay for long run, and that will be very interesting to observe is how they leverage their current capital position as they go out in the market, borrow some more money, and buy Bitcoin, dilute shares, buy Bitcoin. A lot of flexibilities are there. So it's very interesting to see how they use their flexibility as an operating company as compared to, ETF companies are not that flexible. These are trust entities, right? So they have a very strong advantage on that.
Yeah, I think one thing we definitely can say this year is Bitcoin is probably a big topic also, like in traditional financial markets, with all these ETFs and operating companies focusing on Bitcoin holding. And I think like biggest message, I think also for everybody interested in Bitcoin is that the regulatory angles are discussed, and I think it's totally unrealistic right now with these approvals that Bitcoin will be outruled by the regulator. And I think one important angle here, we have already discussed this several times, but I think now it's pretty clear that there's a big distinction between Bitcoin and all the rest of the cryptocurrencies. Also from a regulatory perspective, Gary Gensler sees Bitcoin rather than as a commodity and not a security, and all others as securities. And I think this is great news for the Bitcoin community, and definitely gives a lot of legal certainty, right?
I think it's very interesting because you see there was a lot of discussion around, whether the Bitcoin's proof of work is good for environment, whether proof of stake is better for environment. I think that part of the discussion we are already leaving behind. I see more and more those discussions are not becoming relevant, because one of the strongest thing of the Bitcoin is you are really burning some energy. You are really doing some activity to generate a Bitcoin. It doesn't get created from a thin air because somebody stakes in some exchanges and some protocol is giving some free airdrop token. So that's kind of conservation of energy principle. Like some energy is being burned to generate some value, right? This is, I think, the Bitcoin's core architecture, and this is where I think the Bitcoin distinguishes itself from any other cryptocurrency. That's one. Second is Satoshi never disclosed the identity, and the Satoshi's wallet has never being used for selling the Bitcoin or providing liquidity in the market or doing any activities, right? And that's gives a very interesting position that that's a network that is kind of started from a preliminary phase in a very decentralized manner, and that has a principle of decentralization. So if any new participant comes in, they have the similar amount of restriction as well as freedom, both at the same time. So if you have the right hash power capacity, connect to the network and participate in the block reward as well as the mining rewards and all these kind of things, right? Which is quite different in other proof of stake. So I think Gary Gensler and generally regulators are seeing that. So the decentralized element of Bitcoin is still there. And we see also how the network is being more and more used. So I would say end of last year, we saw a lot of developments in the layer 2 solutions because of the transaction fees is increasing on the layer 1, right? We see the liquid transactions are going quite high. We see the transactions are increasing on Lightning, and this will happen more as more and more activities will happen on the L1, and the price of the L1 token, that is the Bitcoin, is going up. We'll see a lot of developments also on the L2 side. So that's a very interesting year for 2024, I would see. Also, there's some activities happening on the other side. Is a COPA, that is an association that is fighting on the true identity of whether CSW is the owner of or the creator of the Bitcoin or not. So that's a discussion that is happening, and that also will give some market. We are keeping some old, I would say, degrading activities in the past, and we are moving forward to a very bright future where we can really harness the power of this technology that we can use.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to end this, I don't know whether you can see the screen right now.
Yeah, we can see. Yeah.
So we are like at more than $52,000 US one Bitcoin. And so it's like this bright future ahead and very exciting times. And anybody who has thoughts about the episode and what we should cover in the future, please do this in the comment section, and we will also put all the links we have shown here in the show notes below. So see you next time.
See you next time.